reviewers always say, oh, reviews are for the reader. That's what they say. Reviews are for the readers. To a certain degree, for the most part, yes. I would say basic customer reviews are for the reader. But also, you can kind of build up your own fan base as a critic. Like if you run a blog or something like that, you can build up your own fan base. And it's a form of writing. Writing critiques, writing reviews is a form of writing. It's editorial writing. That's what that is. So that's more than just a basic customer review. And you can actually develop your own writing skills. There is a certain skill set involved with doing formal critiques of work. It's not just 100. I would argue that it's not 100% subjective. There is a method to the mayhem, and that may differ from one critic to another. But usually, if it's somebody like they know what they're doing, they've done it for a while, there's going to be some sort of structure involved, just like with a novel or with storytelling, like how storytelling usually has some sort of structure involved, a beginning, a middle, an end. There's plot, there's characters, there's world building. There's structure to a formal critique or an editorial piece. It's not just, I liked it or I hated it. That's just feelings. That's just emotions. A formal critique and a review goes deeper than that. It understands like how to break down a piece of work structurally, how to look at it and kind of like evaluate. Think of it as like you're kind of doing an evaluation of like what you thought about this, that, or the other, whether it be the plot, the characters, the world building, the imagery, however you want to do it up. But there's some sort of structure involved. And that's, to me, my opinion of what separates, a basic bitch customer review that may be coming from somebody who didn't even fucking read the work to begin with versus somebody who reads the work and does editorials kind of on a professional level. So just to kind of say that, because I know on the reader side, there are people that kind of read books just for the clout. And what do I mean by reading books for clout? It's like the type of reviewer that's out there and they're reading big name books, their individual review isn't really going to have an impact. There's a couple different ways. And it gets a little bit murky. So I'm not going to get too much into detail. I'd rather just pitch the idea, where my thoughts are at, and see what you guys have to say on the matter. Do you think there's such thing as reading books for clout? Or is it, because I feel like there's kind of like a gray area there where it's like people will read books because they know it's going to get them attention, or people read books because they genuinely are interested in the book and they review that book. For instance, Stephen King comes to mind. No offense to you booktubers out there and you reviewers out there, but you doing a review on a Stephen King book does fuck all for the book. It's not going to, maybe it might get some people within your circle interested in Stephen King if they've been living under a rock, for the past couple decades. But I'd really say that when you're doing a review on, say, a Stephen King book, really what you're doing is you're throwing up a beacon. What you're doing is you're tossing up a beacon and saying, hey, guys, I like Stephen King, by the way, if you don't know. So for the rest of you guys out there who also like Stephen King, watch my videos, So that's why I say it's kind of like garnering the attention there. But is it just for clout? Is it just shameless kind of clout chasing at that point? Or is it really just like, hey, guys, I want to talk about Stephen King books, and I know he has a huge fan base, so I'm going to review one of his books, and maybe those of you out there who also like Stephen King would like to watch my videos, and we can talk about Stephen King books. There's that. But then there's the side with indie too, where there's these indie books that get hot on TikTok and whatnot for controversial reasons, whether it be have something to do with the author or the book itself, the marketing, something like that. And people review those books Not necessarily because they're interested in the book, but I think that it has more to do with just because of the notoriety surrounding the authors themselves. And that's what I mean is kind of like just doing it for the views. You know, I'm not saying, I'm not making a value judgment or any kind of moral judgment, but I'm just putting it out there as like, what do you guys think about that matter? What are your opinions about that? So for me, they say, oh, it's allegedly all the reviews are for the readers. But I review indie books. So, yeah, a part of that is like, yeah, I would like to raise awareness. Anytime I post anything or talk about indie books, I'm trying to raise awareness for the projects themselves. It's like, hey, guys, this is a book that exists within the underground scene. And usually it's a very obscure author. And people will say, well, don't leave scathing reviews. Don't leave negative reviews on an indie author's book. And don't tag people. Don't tag authors in your reviews when you post them if they are a negative review. And all I have to say about that is that, yeah, I've tagged authors in negative reviews, not because I'm trying to ruin the author's day, but because it's all the books and reviews that I do are usually on works that are extremely obscure. They're extremely obscure. And I just go by the golden rule as like, I do unto others as I would like others to do unto me. And as I said before, the only bad news is no news at all. So even if someone took the time out of their day, if someone took the time out of their day and they not only they purchased one of my works with their own money, they purchased my own work, and they took the time to read that work, and they took the time to write a review on that work, I would be extremely appreciative of that, no matter how scathing the review is, because at the end of the day, it's no skin off my back. There's this thing of like, people think that it's punching down or something like that. And it's like, no, you don't know what that person, where that person, how that person may take that. Now, I will say that I've had authors block me because of the reviews that I've left or because of the editorials that I've written. Now, mind you, I've never, ever, ever personally attacked an author. I never go ad hominem on an author. In other words, I never talk about the author themselves as a person. My focus is always on the work itself because, as a rule of thumb, I always come from the standpoint that no matter how shitty a book is, okay, if I took the time, I bought it, I have a right to speak my mind on that work. I bought it with my own money. Someone decided to put that work out there on the open market for public purchase, and I decided to give that book a chance. And if it's shit, then I have every right to leave a scathing review about how shitty I thought the book was and give out reasons why. Now, as the indie author on the receiving end of a scathing review, I could say this much. You could either hate the person putting it out, whatever, but do it silently. You don't need to go back at them, because one thing is, you don't want to scare away critics. That's one piece of work. My rule of thumb is, an author, even if they wrote one shitty book, so what? That's one book. You can always create new works. You can always take whatever someone said in a review with a grain of salt, say, hey, I really don't like some of the language they were using in their editorial, but you know what? I'm going to look past that shit, and I'm just going to try and take what I can out of this and just try to understand maybe where they were coming from. And if it makes sense, it makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, then just say, this guy's an idiot, and just keep it moving. You know what I mean? Because the last thing that we want to do as indie authors out here is to be scaring away the people who are already choosing to give indie books the time of day. And that's all I got to kind of say about that one. And I'll leave it up to you guys and kind of develop this topic a little bit more as we go along and see what you guys have to say.